What's going on, fellow rock and rollers? Peace and love to you. Thumbs up, A-OK, cowbunga, and rock and roll. And today, you see in the title, we are going to be listing out a whole bunch of saints, or those who are in the process of sainthood, in canonization it's called, that are musicians. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of list these in this sort of fun video format and to show a couple of instruments here. Of course, you know, on this page we love music. We do all different things, types of music. We do themed sessions that have to do with songs with this particular title, words in the title. We do different things on instruments, teaching about basic scales and riffs and different exercises that you could do on guitar, bass, piano, ukulele, drums. We do just fun sing-along songs for kids, like traditional children's songs. We do holiday songs based upon different holidays in the year. And so really, really fun. And we try to do some different things on this page. So this is one of those different videos. So here we go. We're going to list out saints that have to do with music, that are musicians or that have music somewhat in their history. And there's 50 of them. So we're going to start off right here. So Saint Nicetas of Messina, living in the 4th century, Nicetas was a composer of many Latin hymns for use during the liturgy. Some scholars believe he was the original composer of the traditional Te Deum hymn. Pretty cool. Saint Romanus the Melodist, sometimes called the hymnographer, Romanus lived during the 6th century and is a composer of many hymns still used in the Byzantine liturgies. He was not a natural musician, but received this gift as a divine grace through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Really cool. So these next three are blessed. That means they're not technically saints, but they're in the process of becoming a saint. There's a whole process with that, and you can maybe Google that if you want to yourself. It's going through the canonization process. All right, so Blessed Maria Dina Boulanger. Born in Canada in 1897, Boulanger was a gifted young girl, and her musical talents were noticed by many. This prompted her parents to send her to New York to study at the Institute of Musical Art, now known as the Juilliard School. Later on, she joined a religious order and taught music teachers while composing her own music based on private mystical experiences. Really cool. Blessed Francisco Bandres Sanchez, one of the most countless martyrs of the Spanish Civil War in 1936. Sanchez was a Salesian priest who was also a musician and music director. And then Blessed Giovanni Giovinel Encina, born in 1545, a long time ago. Encina was a very talented man who was both a musician and doctor before joining St. Philip Neri in his own new religious order. After becoming a priest, he remained devoted to his music and composed many hymns for the community. And then there's, of course, the big patron saint, the patroness of music and musicians, Saint Cecilia. A legend has it is that the 3rd century Roman noblewoman Cecilia vowed her virginity to an angel of God, and then she was married against her will. Her husband promised to uphold her wish only if he saw the angel himself. So she is known as the patroness of music and musicians. There's a tradition that she sang to God in her heart as musicians played at her wedding. There's so many still left here. So here we go. Let's keep it going. Saint Aldhelm of Sherborne was an English abbot whose musical talents included harp, fiddle, pipes, and voice. He was also a scholar and a miracle worker. Saint Alphonsus Liguori was an Italian bishop and doctor of the church. Having been made to practice the harpsichord for 3 hours a day as a child, he was a great master in the instrument and used it to accompany novices and communities as they practiced the many popular hymns he composed. St. Andrew Kagwa was the master drummer of the King of Buganda, had over 15 other drummers before he became director of the entire royal band. Pretty cool. Servant of God Antonio Cuipa was an Apalachi chief, a husband and father who served his people as a carpenter and evangelized his neighbors by playing the flute and the guitar, followed by his powerful preaching. Blessed Bartolo Longo was an Italian high priest who converted and became a preacher of the rosary. So he was a high priest of Satan, and then he converted and became a preacher of the rosary. As a young man, he played the violin, the flute, and piano, and directed a band. Pretty cool. Saint Benignius of Armagh was an Irish chieftain converted by Saint Patrick, whose voice was so beautiful it earned him the nickname Patrick Psalm Singer. He directed a choir and then became bishop alongside his mentor. Blessed Carlo Aquitas is best known for his skill as a computer programmer and web designer, but has also taught himself to play the saxophone. Now, he is a very relatively newer one, was born in 1991. Blessed Carlos Manuel Rodriguez Santiago was a Puerto Rican layman who lived for the liturgy, instructed people about it, and playing the organ for the Mass, self-taught on only a year of piano lessons. That's amazing. St. Catherine of Bologna was an Italian Poor Clare abbess. She was a talented painter and poet and played the viola, even on her deathbed. The viola is kind of like in between a violin and a bass, the size of it. It's more like a violin. Servant of God Cyprian Rugamba was a husband and father of 11, a composer and a choreographer who led the renewal in Rwandan culture after the end of colonialism. Blessed Nope. Uh, Ezequiel Huerta Gutierrez was a Mexican husband and father of 10, a pianist, a church organist, a choir director, and a classically trained tenor. Wow, amazing. Saint Dulce Pontes was a Brazilian nun who was nominated for a Nobel Prize for her work with the poor. In addition to building hospitals and soup kitchens, she played soccer with street children and played her accordion to cheer up workers. This is someone after my own heart, helping those in need, soup kitchens and hospitals, playing soccer. I'm a big soccer fan, and so is my family, and using music as a way to inspire people. St. Dunstan of Canterbury was an English bishop, artist, sculptor, and metalworker. He played the harp and composed hymns in English and Latin. St. Elizabeth of the Trinity was a French Carmelite nun who had played the piano for hours each day before entering the convent. She won numerous prizes and might have become a famous concert pianist, but chose Carmel instead. St. Ephrem the Syrian was a Turkish deacon who wrote over 400 hymns and was called the Harp of the Spirit. He used hymns to instruct people in the faith and combat heresies. The Venerable Felix Varela was a Cuban priest and intellectual, a violinist who helped found the first Cuban Philharmonic Society, and a human rights advocate whose work for abolition got him exiled to the United States. Blessed Fructuoso Perez Marquez was a Spanish journalist and newspaper editor who played piano and sang, serving as a cantor for his cathedral. St. Godric of Finchal was an English pirate who became a hermit and was blessed with mystical visions and the gift of prophecy. He's said to have received the songs he wrote in visions. Blessed Herman of Reichenau was a disabled German Benedictine monk who built musical instruments and composed many chants, possibly including the Salve Regina and the Alma Redemptoris Mater. Really cool. Built his own instruments. Just like we've done in these sessions here, we have instruments that we have homemade, right? Taking a water bottle, putting some rice in it, or some dirt in it, taking sticks from outside, using them as drumsticks, many different things you can make from home. Saint Hervé was a blind French bard who became a hermit and developed such a reputation for holiness that many of the Christians came to live with and learn from him. All right, Saint Hildegard of Bingen was a German Benedictine prioress, mystic poet, herbalist, and celebrated composer. She's considered a doctor of the church. Blessed Hyacinth Mary Cormier was a French Dominican priest and master of the order who had a beautiful singing voice and played the flageolet, the organ, and the opheliocide. He was so talented at the organ that celebrated composer and pianist Franz Liszt called him a master of the art. It's a pretty high compliment coming from Liszt. Blessed Jerzinu Wojciechowski was a Polish teenager whose father had led the family when he was only 11. He sang in the choir and played the piano in hopes of learning to compose, but was killed by the Nazis, unfortunately. St. John Wang Ru was a Chinese minor seminarian known for his beautiful singing voice. After touring Europe with his bishop, he returned to China and was martyred. Blessed Lucien Botuvasoa was a Malagasy husband and father, an Athenian teacher, an exceptional singer who played the harmonium and directed the parish choir before being martyred. St. Maria Crescentia Huss was a German Franciscan with a voice so beautiful that Protestants and Catholics alike came to Mass just to hear her sing. Venerable Maria Orsola Busoni was an Italian teenager who played guitar and loved singing, skating, and skiing. She was electrocuted while blow-drying her hair, unfortunately. Blessed Maria Romero Meneses was a Nicaraguan Salesian sister trained as a violinist and a pianist. She built schools and clinics and food banks and is known as the social apostle of Costa Rica. Saint Mechitilde of Helfeta was a German Benedictine nun known as the Nightingale of Helfta for her beautiful voice. She directed the choir in a monastery for many years. Blessed Miguel Pro was a Mexican Jesuit priest who served his people while in hiding during the Cristero War. He was famous for his practical jokes and often played guitar and mandolin to keep people's spirits up. Another saint of my own heart there. Blessed Natalia Tulesiewicz was a Polish poet, a violinist, a PhD, and a teacher who infiltrated Nazi factories, served the workers, and was killed in Ravensbrück. Blessed Noctar Balboas was a Swiss monk, also called Blessed Noctar the Stammerer, who composed many chants and liturgical sequences and compiled the work of other composers as well. St. Peter Claver was a Spanish Jesuit priest who served enslaved people in Colombia. In addition to the corporal works of mercy, he formed a choir of Africans who sang liturgical music so heavenly that Spanish wept and Muslims converted. That is pretty powerful stuff right there. Blessed Raphael Shedlinski was a Polish cavalry officer who became a Franciscan priest. He played the harp, the lute, and the mandolin. St. Raphael Guizar in Valencia was a Mexican bishop who played the accordion and spent his seminary years composing music, directing the choir, and leading a band called the Mystical Roosters. Blessed Ranieri Sacchieri was an Italian traveling musician living a worldly life funded by his lyre and his voice until a deep conversion led him to vow poverty and ultimately life in a monastery. That's basically the traveling minstrel right there. Servant of God Rosa Giovannetti was an Italian cellist who toured Italy, giving concerts, cared for migrants and refugees, played piano, and loved swimming and boat racing. Blessed Rupert Mayer was a talented German violinist who played the violin as he prepared his homilies, but gave it up when he entered the Jesuits. He vocally opposed the Nazis, was imprisoned and died shortly after his release. Venerable Satoko Kitihari was a rich, young Japanese convert who began her work with slum children by giving them piano lessons and finished by moving into the slum to live with them. Blessed Solanus Casey was an American Capuchin priest who played the violin with more love than skill, bringing out his instrument to play quite badly to cheer up the other friars, or while alone in the chapel, his squeaky efforts delighted the heart of God. St. Teresa of the Andes was a Chilean girl who left behind a world of sports, parties, and popularity to become a Carmelite. She played piano, guitar, and harmonium. St. Tutilio of St. Gall was a German monk known for his skill as a boxer, poet, composer, painter, and sculptor. He played trumpet and harp, sang, and studied various academic disciplines as well. St. Venantius Fortunatus was an Italian convert to the faith and a wandering bard for many years before becoming a priest and then a bishop. He wrote poetry and songs, including some of the first known Marian poems. Really cool. St. Victoriano Pio was a Spanish Christian brother, a talented musician and choir director who was martyred in the Spanish Civil War. We have two more left. Blessed Vladimir Pirjima was a Ukrainian husband and father, a trained Byzantine cantor and church choir director who was martyred by the communists. And the Venerable Ziniv Alif was kidnapped from Sudan and sold into slavery, ransomed for slavery, and became a poor cleric, famous for her skill as a vocalist, but particularly as an organist. And that brings us to our end of this session, 50 saints, or in the process of becoming a saint. The Venerable and Blessed, those are, if I said venerable or blessed, those are individuals who are in the process of becoming a saint, and the other ones are already full-blown saints. Really, really cool. Saints, or in the process of becoming saints, musicians. Super, super fun. And wanted to put this out there for you. Feel free to check any of these out on your own. There's a link as well that I will put that is going to be in the description where I found most of these. It's on a site called alicia.org, and it's got 47 saints who are musicians, but I added a few extra ones that weren't on that list that I found as well that I thought would be kind of nice to bring that number to 50. Peace and love and thumbs up and A-OK and cowbunga and rock and roll. And you never know what to expect here, right? So if you ever feel like you might want to get into music, it's never too late, and you could use music in so many different ways to inspire people, and that is what these saints most certainly did. They did it for spreading the message of the faith in the Christian and Catholic denominations. Thumbs up. Bye-bye.